The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people had looked up at the night sky and wondered what secrets it held. Now, in the year 2347, they finally knew, and the answer was not what they had hoped for. Admiral Drake stood on the bridge of the starship Endeavour, watching the endless black void through the observation window. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. 30 years in space had taught him many things, but nothing had prepared him for what was about to happen. The communication officer, a young woman named Sophie Clark, turned from her station with a pale face. "Sir, we have an incoming transmission. Priority 1. It's from the Galactic Council." Felt his stomach tighten. Priority 1 messages were never good news. "Put it through," he said. The holographic display flickered to life, and the image of High Arbiter X appeared before them. X was a creature that looked like a tall insect with 4 arms and eyes that glowed with cold blue light. He was the leader of the Dominion Collective and one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Admiral Drake," X said in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against stone, "I bring a message from the inner circle of the Galactic Council. You will listen carefully." Crossed his arms. "I'm listening." What followed made his blood run cold. The Galactic Council had decided that humanity was growing too fast. In just 63 years since first contact, humans had spread across dozens of star systems. They had built ships that could travel faster than species who had been sailing the stars for millions of years. They had developed weapons that worried even the oldest civilizations. The Council had made a decision. Humanity must give up all its colonies outside the Sol system. Earth's military fleet must be reduced to a small ceremonial force. All human technology would be placed under Council control. In return, the Council would protect Earth and allow humans to live in peace. "You have 3 galactic cycles to accept these terms," X said. "That is approximately 14 of your Earth days. If you refuse, the Council will cut off all trade with your species. You will receive no resources, no technology, no support of any kind. You will be alone in the universe." The transmission ended. Stood in silence for a long moment. Around him, his crew stared at the empty space where the hologram had been. Nobody spoke. Nobody knew what to say. "Get me Ambassador Mitchell," said finally. "She needs to see this." Laura Mitchell was Earth's voice in the galaxy. She had spent 20 years building relationships with alien species, learning their languages, understanding their cultures. She was smart, patient, and diplomatic, but when she watched the recording of X's message, even she could not hide her shock. "They can't be serious," she said. "This is everything we've built, everything we've worked for." "They're very serious," replied. "I've dealt with the Dominion Collective before. X doesn't make empty threats." Laura sat down heavily in a chair. Her mind was racing through all the possible responses, all the diplomatic channels, all the ways this could be resolved peacefully. But deep down, she knew there was no easy answer. "We need to send this to Earth," she said. "The President must see this immediately." On Earth, it was morning in Washington when the message arrived. President Cole was eating breakfast with his family when his chief of staff burst into the room. One look at her face told him something terrible had happened. He watched the recording 3 times. Each time his expression grew darker. When it finally ended, he stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. Millions of people were going about their daily lives, completely unaware that their entire future hung in the balance. "Call an emergency session," he said quietly. "Everyone, the Parliament, the Joint Chiefs, all of them, we meet in 1 hour." The meeting room beneath the White House had been built to survive nuclear war. Now it would host a different kind of battle. Representatives from every major nation gathered around a massive table, their faces grim. General Heather Price, commander of Earth's Defense Forces, was the first to speak. She was a short woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for speaking bluntly. Let me be clear about our situation, she said. If we fight, we lose. The Council has over 400 member species. Their combined fleet outnumbers ours by at least 40 to 1. In a direct war, humanity would be destroyed within months. The room fell silent. Many had hoped for better news. So we surrender? Asked Secretary of Defense Lambert. He was a large man with a booming voice, but now he spoke softly. We give up everything our parents and grandparents built. I didn't say that, Heather replied. I said we can't win a direct war. That doesn't mean we have no options. Dr. Torres, head of Earth's Advanced Research Division, raised his hand. He was a thin man who usually stayed quiet in meetings, but now he had something important to say. There are things the Council doesn't know about us, he said carefully. Projects we've kept hidden, technologies we've developed in secret. We're not as weak as they think. What kind of technologies? The president asked. Hesitated. What he was about to reveal was classified at the highest level. Only a handful of people in the entire government knew about it. Let's just say that humanity has been preparing for this possibility for a very long time, he said. We always knew the elder races might turn against us someday. We've been building. Insurance. The room erupted into questions, but President Cole raised his hand for silence. We have 14 days, he said. 14 days to decide the future of our entire species. I want every option on the table, every possibility explored. We will not make this decision in panic or in anger. We will think carefully and we will choose wisely. He looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Some were afraid. Some were angry, but all of them were determined. One thing I know for certain, the president continued. Whatever we decide, it must be something we can live with, something our children and will be proud of. The galaxy is watching us. Let's show them who we really are. As the meeting continued deep into the night, messages flew across space. Ships changed course. Secret facilities powered up systems that had been dormant for years. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, humanity began to prepare for whatever came next. The Council had given them an ultimatum. Now humanity would give them an answer, but not the answer they expected. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Someone had leaked the Council's ultimatum to the media, and within hours, every person on the planet knew what was happening. The reaction was immediate and intense. In New York, thousands of people gathered in the streets, carrying signs and shouting at the sky. In Tokyo, workers left their offices to watch the news on giant screens. In London, Paris, and Berlin, crowds formed outside government buildings demanding answers. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone was afraid. Some people called for peace at any cost. They said humanity was too young, too weak to fight the ancient powers of the galaxy. Better to accept the Council's terms and survive than to resist and be destroyed. These people carried white flags and spoke of compromise. Others burned with anger. They refused to give up what their ancestors had built. They spoke of freedom, of pride, of the human spirit that had carried their species from caves to the stars. These people wore the colors of Earth and chanted words of defiance. President Cole watched the protests from his office window. He had not slept in 2 days. Every hour brought new reports, new demands, new problems. The weight of 8 billion lives pressed down on his shoulders. Sir, his assistant said softly, the Parliament is ready. He nodded and walked to the meeting room. This would be the most important debate in human history. The United Earth Parliament was a grand hall filled with representatives from every nation. Today, every seat was taken. The air was thick with tension and the smell of coffee. Many of these people had been arguing for days without rest. General Heather Price stood at the front, pointing at a massive display screen. It showed the positions of the Council's military forces spread across the galaxy. Our intelligence suggests the Council has already begun moving ships toward our border, she said. They're not waiting for our answer. They're preparing for the possibility that we refuse. How long until they reach our territory? Asked representative from the Asian coalition. If they decide to attack, they could reach our outer colonies in 3 weeks. Earth itself would be threatened within 2 months. Gasps filled the room. 2 months, such a short time to prepare for the end of everything. Secretary of Defense Lambert stood up. His face was red with frustration. We cannot simply roll over and show our bellies, he said loudly. What kind of message does that send? That humanity is weak, that we will bend to any threat. If we give in now, they will never stop taking from us. Today it's our colonies, tomorrow it's our technology. The day after, they'll want our very thoughts. And what is your alternative? Asked Representative Santos from the South American Union. She was an older woman with kind eyes but a sharp tongue. Fight a war we cannot win. Watch our children die in the void of space. Pride is a luxury we cannot afford. The argument went back and forth for hours. Voices rose and fell. Fists pounded on tables. At times, it seemed like the representatives might come to blows. President Cole listened to it all, saying nothing, taking notes, thinking. Then Dr. Torres asked to speak. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew that ran the most secret research programs on Earth. If anyone had hidden knowledge, it was him. I must share something with you, said. Something that may change your thinking. He pressed a button, and new images appeared on the screen. They showed facilities hidden on distant moons, ships of unusual design, energy readings that made no sense to most people in the room. For the past 30 years, we have been running a secret program, explained. We call it Project Horizon. Its purpose was simple, to ensure that humanity would never be completely dependent on the Galactic Council. He pointed to a map of the galaxy. A large section on the far side was marked in red. This is the outer reach, a region of space that the Council considers worthless because their sensors cannot penetrate it. But we found a way. We've been sending ships there for 3 decades. We've established colonies. We've found resources. Metals, crystals, energy sources that the Council doesn't even know exist. The room erupted into noise. Representatives shouted questions. Some demanded to know why they hadn't been told. Others wanted details about what had been discovered. Raised his hand for silence. There's more. We've also developed new technologies, engines that work on principles the elder races have never discovered, weapons that can match anything in the Council's arsenal, communication systems that cannot be blocked or monitored. Why keep this secret? President Cole asked. It was the first time he had spoken during the debate. Because we knew this day would come, replied. We knew that eventually the Council would see us as a threat. We needed something to fall back on, something they didn't know about. General Heather Price nodded slowly. This changes our options, she admitted. We're not as helpless as I thought. A young diplomat named Morgan raised her hand. She had been Laura Mitchell's student and was known for her creative thinking. Maybe we don't have to choose between surrender and war, she said. Maybe there's a third path, something unexpected, something that shows strength without starting a fight. What do you have in mind? The president asked. Smiled slightly. The Council expects us to either beg for mercy or lash out in anger. What if we do neither? What if we respond with something they've never seen before? Calm confidence, complete refusal to be afraid, and a hint that we know something they don't. The room considered her words. It was a dangerous game. If they showed too much strength, the Council might attack immediately. If they showed too little, their bluff would be called. President Cole stood up. The room fell silent. We have heard all the arguments, he said. Now I must make a decision. I have listened to those who counsel peace. I have listened to those who demand war. I have heard about our secret strengths and our very real weaknesses. He paused, looking at the faces around him. I choose a different path. We will not surrender, but we will not threaten war either. We will respond with dignity, with strength, and with truth. We will tell the Council who we really are, and we will let them decide if they truly want to make an enemy of humanity." He turned to his speechwriter, a quiet man named Daniel Hayes, who had been sitting in the corner taking notes. "Daniel, I need you to write the most important message in human history. It must be honest, it must be brave, and it must make the entire galaxy stop and think." Daniel nodded, understanding the weight of what he was being asked to do. "When do you need it?" he asked. "Yesterday," the president replied, "but I'll settle for tomorrow morning." As the parliament session ended, the representatives filed out with new purpose. They still didn't know exactly what would happen, but they knew one thing: humanity would not go quietly. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And somewhere in the back of everyone's mind was a simple thought. Maybe, just maybe, the galaxy had underestimated the wrong species. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in space between three ancient stars, a monument to the power of the elder races. Today, it was filled with representatives from over 300 species, all gathered to witness what they believed would be humanity's surrender. High Arbiter X sat on his throne of black crystal, his insect-like eyes watching the entrance with cold satisfaction. Around him, the other members of the inner circle waited patiently. The tall beings made of living metal, the creatures of shadow and whisper, they who looked like clouds of glowing gas but possessed minds older than Earth's sun. They had all agreed, humanity must be controlled before it grew too dangerous. The young species had achieved too much too quickly. Left unchecked, they could upset the balance of power that had existed for millions of years. "The human ambassador approaches," announced a servant. Ambassador Laura Mitchell walked into the hall alone. She wore a simple blue dress, the color of Earth's oceans. Her face showed no fear, no anger, no worry at all. She moved through the crowd of alien beings as if she were taking a casual walk through a garden. Many in the audience found this strange. They had expected tears, perhaps, or trembling, or at least some sign that the human understood how serious this moment was. But Laura walked with her head high and her shoulders straight. She reached the center of the hall, where a small platform waited for her. 300 species watched in silence. Billions more observed through broadcasts sent across the galaxy. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. High Arbiter X leaned forward on his throne. "Ambassador Mitchell," he said, his metallic voice echoing through the vast chamber, "you are here to deliver your species' response to our generous offer of protection. Speak now, so that all may hear." Laura looked around the room slowly, meeting as many eyes as she could. Then she began to speak. "High Arbiter, members of the Council, representatives of the galaxy's great civilizations, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address you." Her voice was calm and clear. It carried to every corner of the hall without any effort. "Before I deliver our official response, I would like to share a story with you, a story about my species. I think it's important that you understand who you're dealing with." X's eyes narrowed slightly. This was not how these things usually went, but he said nothing. "Humanity is young," Laura continued. "By your standards, we are children. While your ancestors were building empires among the stars, mine were just learning to control fire. We have existed for only a tiny fraction of the time you have. This is true." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But in that tiny time, we have done remarkable things. We have also done terrible things. We have created great art and beautiful music. We have discovered the secrets of the atom and the structure of life itself. But we have also started wars that killed millions. We have poisoned our own world. We have invented new ways to hurt each other that even we find shocking." The audience listened in confusion. Was this human criticizing her own species? What kind of diplomatic strategy was this? "Twice in our history we have nearly destroyed ourselves completely," Laura said. "Twice, We have looked into the void of extinction and seen our own reflection staring back. And twice we have pulled back from the edge, not because we were wise, not because we were good, but because deep in our hearts we refused to die. Her voice grew stronger now. You see, that is the thing about humanity that most species do not understand. We are stubborn. Incredibly, impossibly, annoyingly stubborn. When we are told something is impossible, we do it anyway. When we are told to give up, we dig our heels in and push harder. When we are beaten down, we get back up. Again and again and again, until either we succeed or we cease to exist. She looked directly at X. You have given us an ultimatum. You have told us to surrender our colonies, our ships, our future. You have offered us protection in exchange for our freedom, and now you expect us to accept. Laura reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data crystal. It glowed softly in her hand. This contains the official response from the United Earth Parliament, approved unanimously by President Cole and every member nation of our planet. I will read it now. The hall was completely silent, not a single being moved or breathed. Laura activated the crystal, and a holographic text appeared before her. She began to read. To the Galactic Council and all the peoples of the galaxy, we have received your ultimatum. We have considered your terms carefully, and we must, with all respect, decline. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Decline? Were the humans insane? You offer us protection, Laura continued reading. But what you truly offer is a cage. You offer us peace, but only the peace of those who have nothing left to lose. You offer us a place in your galaxy, but only as servants, never as equals. Humanity does not accept these terms. We will not surrender our colonies. We will not dismantle our fleet. We will not place our future in your hands. X rose from his throne, his forearms trembling with anger. You dare. I am not finished, Laura said firmly, and something in her voice made even the High Arbiter pause. You have threatened us with sanctions. You have hinted at war. You believe that we are afraid of you, and perhaps we should be. You are older, stronger, and more numerous than us. She looked around the room one more time. But you have made a mistake. You have judged humanity by the standards of other species. You assume that because we are young, we are weak. You assume that because we are small, we will break. You assume that because we have much to lose, we will not risk losing it. Her voice rang out like a bell. You are wrong. We have crawled out of the mud. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We have looked up at the stars and dreamed impossible dreams, and then we have made those dreams real. We have done all of this not because we were special, but because we refused to accept any other option. So here is our answer. No, we will not kneel. We will not beg. We will not surrender our future because others fear what we might become. You have given us 14 days to respond. We needed only 2. The remaining 12 days are yours. Use them to reconsider. Use them to think about what kind of galaxy you want to live in. Use them to decide if you truly want to make an enemy of a species that has survived everything the universe has thrown at it. Laura lowered the crystal. Her voice softened. We do not want war. We have seen enough war to last us forever, but we will not purchase peace with our dignity. We hope you will choose wisdom over pride. We hope you will see us as partners rather than threats. But whatever you choose, humanity will face it as we have faced everything else. Together, unbroken, and absolutely refusing to die. She bowed slightly. That is our answer. The Grand Assembly Hall exploded into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for calm. The ambassadors stalked out in anger. The swirled with confused colors. But through it all, Laura Mitchell stood calmly in the center of the room, a small human woman surrounded by giants, completely unafraid. And across the galaxy, billions of beings watched and wondered. Had they made a terrible mistake? The days following Ambassador Mitchell's speech were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For millions of years, the Galactic Council had ruled without serious challenge. Younger species accepted their place in the order of things. They bowed to the elder races, paid their tributes, and did as they were told. That was simply how the universe worked. Until now. High Arbiter X called an emergency meeting of the Inner Circle. The room was filled with barely controlled rage. The representative, a being of liquid metal named, spoke first. "This insult cannot stand," said, his form shifting with anger. "The humans must be crushed. They must be made an example for any other species that might think of defying us." "I agree," whispered Shade Singer, the voice of The creature was difficult to see, appearing only as a dark shimmer in the air. "Let us destroy their colonies. Let us burn their fleet. Let them learn the price of arrogance." X raised one of his forearms for silence. Despite his anger, he was thinking carefully. Something about the human response bothered him. Why were they not afraid? He asked. The ambassador showed no fear at all, not even a hint of worry. Either humans are completely insane or they know something we do not. The Inner Circle considered this. It was an uncomfortable thought. "Perhaps we should gather more intelligence before we act," suggested the representative, a glowing cloud named Morning Light. They were the oldest of the elder races, and they remembered many things. "I have studied humanity since their first contact with us. They are a curious species. They hide their true strength until the moment they choose to reveal it." "You suggest they are bluffing," said dismissively. "I suggest we should not assume anything about them," Morning Light replied. "They have surprised us before." While the Inner Circle debated, something unexpected began to happen across the galaxy. Admiral Drake was the first to notice it. Strange encrypted messages were appearing on human communication channels. At first, he thought they might be attacks or spy attempts, but when his team decoded them, they found something very different. "Sir, you need to see this," Sophie Clark said, handing him a data pad. Read the message 3 times, not quite believing what he was seeing. It was from the Republic, a young spacefaring civilization that had joined the Council only a few centuries before humanity. They were reaching out in secret, offering friendship. "We watched your ambassador speak," the message said. "We heard her words. They stirred something in us that we thought was dead. We too have grown tired of kneeling. We too dream of something more. If you will have us, we would like to be your friends." Over the next few days, more messages arrived. The clans, nomadic traders who traveled the galaxy in massive caravan fleets, offered to share their routes with human ships. The Collective, a species of linked minds that the Council considered backwards, proposed a technology exchange. The tiny Federation, barely large enough to be noticed, sent a simple message: "We stand with you." Brought these messages to Ambassador Mitchell, who had returned to the diplomatic station after her speech. She read through them with growing wonder. "They were waiting," she said softly. "All these years, all these species, just waiting for someone to stand up first." "What do we do?" asked. "We welcome them," Laura replied. "Quietly, carefully, but we welcome them. The Council rules through fear and isolation. If we can build a network of friendship instead, everything changes." Meanwhile, the Council's intelligence services were working overtime. Reports flooded into X's office, each one more disturbing than the last. Human ships had been spotted in regions of space that should have been impossible to reach. Energy signatures had been detected that matched no known technology. And there were rumors, whispers really, of something called Project Horizon that the humans had been hiding for decades. X sent his best spies to investigate. Most of them simply disappeared. The few who returned brought back only fragments of information: hidden bases, strange engines, a prototype ship that had vanished from all tracking systems 3 years ago and had never been seen again. "What are they building?" demanded at the next Inner Circle meeting. "What are they hiding?" Nobody could answer. On Earth, General Heather Price was coordinating the defense preparations. Every ship in the human fleet was being moved into strategic positions. Colonies were strengthening their shields and preparing evacuation plans. Soldiers were training for battles they hoped would never come. But there was something unusual about the fleet movements. Ships were not just defending, they were also revealing. Slowly, carefully, humanity was letting the Council catch glimpses of what it had been hiding. A research station appeared on long-range sensors in a region the Council had thought empty. Then another. Then another. Energy readings spiked in places where there should have been nothing but void. The Council's carefully mapped picture of human capabilities was falling apart. Dr. Torres watched the reports coming in from his office deep underground. Everything was going according to plan. For 30 years they had been preparing for this moment. Building, hiding, waiting. Now it was time to let the galaxy see the truth. Not all of it, not yet, just enough to make them wonder, just enough to make them afraid. High Arbiter X requested a private communication with Ambassador Mitchell. When her face appeared on his screen, she looked perfectly calm, even friendly. "High Arbiter," she said, "how can I help you?" "What are you hiding?" X asked directly. "My intelligence reports show facilities and ships that we never knew existed. Your technology appears to be more advanced than you revealed. You have been deceiving us." Laura smiled slightly. "We have kept certain things private, yes. Every species has its secrets. We didn't think the Council would mind. You have built military installations without permission. You have developed weapons without approval. This is a violation of your membership terms." "Ah," Laura said, her smile growing a little wider. "I see. You are upset because we are stronger than you thought. You expected a frightened child and you found something else instead." X's eyes glowed with cold anger. "Tell me what you are hiding." Laura leaned forward slightly. "We have been busy, High Arbiter, very busy. For 30 years, while your council watched our public progress, we were also working in private, building things, discovering things, preparing for a day we hoped would never come." "What things?" "That's the question, isn't it? You don't know, and that uncertainty is eating at you. For the first time in a very long time, the Great Galactic Council faces something it doesn't understand." She paused. "Let me give you some advice. The same advice I would give anyone facing an uncertain situation. Be careful. Don't assume you know everything. And consider the possibility that the path of conflict might cost you more than you expect." The communication ended. X sat in silence for a long time. Around him, the machinery of the Council continued to turn, planning sanctions and preparing for possible war. But deep in his ancient mind, a new emotion was growing. For the first time in his very long life, High Arbiter X felt something he barely recognized. Doubt. And across the galaxy, in secret rooms and hidden ships, in encrypted messages and careful plans, a new alliance was slowly taking shape. Young species and old outcasts, traders and dreamers, all of them watching humanity with new eyes. One small species had stood up to the greatest power in the galaxy. And the galaxy would never be the same. The 14 days came to an end on a quiet Tuesday morning, Earth time. Across the galaxy, billions of beings waited to see what would happen next. The Galactic Council had made their threat. Humanity had given their answer. Now came the consequences. High Arbiter X stood before the Grand Assembly once more. The hall was even more crowded than before. Everyone wanted to witness this moment. The Great Council was about to punish humanity for its defiance. "The deadline has passed," X announced, his metallic voice filling the chamber. "Humanity has refused our generous terms. Therefore, I hereby declare total economic sanctions against the human species. All trade with their worlds is forbidden. All technology sharing is ended. All diplomatic relations are suspended until they accept our conditions." The elder races applauded. Finally, the young upstarts would learn their place. Without access to council resources and technology, humanity would soon come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. But something strange happened. Ambassador Laura Mitchell, who was present to hear the announcement, did not seem worried at all. In fact, she was smiling. "High Arbiter," she said, stepping forward. "Before you implement these sanctions, there is something you should see." She activated a small device, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the hall. It showed a map of the galaxy, but with additions that made no sense to most viewers. New lines connected distant points. Previously empty regions were marked with human symbols. A vast section of the galaxy's edge, labeled Outer Reach, glowed with activity. "What is this?" X demanded. "This is what we have been building for 30 years, Laura replied. "We call it the Horizon Network." Dr. Torres appeared as a hologram beside her, ready to explain. "The Horizon Network is a system of quantum relay stations spread across unexplored space," said. "These stations allow for instant communication across any distance. They provide navigation data for regions your sensors cannot penetrate, and they connect to a vast territory that we have been quietly colonizing since before most of you knew our species existed." The hall erupted into confused noise. X raised his arms for silence. "You cannot have done this," he said. "The regions you describe are impassable. Our sensors cannot function there. No ship can navigate those spaces." "Your sensors cannot," agreed. "Your ships cannot, but ours can. We developed new technology specifically for this purpose. While you watched us struggle to build the same engines your ancestors created millions of years ago, we were also inventing something completely new, something you had never imagined." Laura stepped forward again. "The point is simple, High Arbiter. You threatened to cut us off from resources and technology, but we don't need your resources anymore. The Outer Reach contains everything we require. Metals, energy crystals, rare materials that don't even exist in Council space. We have been mining them for decades." "You threatened to isolate us from the galaxy," she continued. "But we are already connected to dozens of species through our network. We have trade agreements, technology exchanges, and friendships that have nothing to do with the Council. Your sanctions will inconvenience us, certainly, but they will not destroy us. They will not even slow us down very much." Silence fell over the assembly. The elder races were struggling to process what they were hearing. For millions of years, they had controlled the galaxy through their superior technology and their grip on resources. Now they were learning that a species younger than many of their buildings had built a parallel system right under their noses. "Why reveal this now?" asked Morning Light, the representative. Unlike the others, she did not seem angry. If anything, she sounded curious. "Because we want peace," Laura said. "Not the false peace of surrender, but real peace between equals. And for that to happen, you need to understand who we really are." She gestured, and the display changed. It now showed the Horizon Network with new markers, places where the network could be expanded. "We are offering to share this," she said. "The Horizon Network will be open to any civilization that wishes to use it. New trade routes, new communication channels, new opportunities for exploration and discovery. All we ask in return is respect. No ultimatums, no threats, no demands for surrender. Treat us as partners and we will share everything we have built." High Arbiter X stared at the display. His mind was racing through calculations and possibilities. The humans had not just survived their threat. They had turned it around completely. They were now offering the Council something valuable while asking for nothing but dignity in return. "And if we refuse?" he asked quietly. Laura shrugged. "Then we keep it to ourselves. We continue to grow in the Outer Reach. We continue to build our network of friends and allies. And someday, perhaps sooner than you expect, the balance of power in this galaxy shifts permanently. Not through war, not through conflict, just through the simple fact that we offer something better than what you provide." The vote that followed was the longest in Council history. The elder races argued for days. Some still demanded punishment, war, anything to stop the humans from upsetting their ancient order. Others saw the writing on the stars. The galaxy was changing whether they liked it or not. Better to adapt than to fight a losing battle. In the end, the sanctions were never implemented. 6 months later, 17 species had formally left the Galactic Council to join a new organization, the Partnership of Free Worlds. Humanity was at its center, but not as a ruler. The partnership had no thrones, no high arbiters, no inner circles. Decisions were made together by consensus, with every member having an equal voice. The Republic was among the first to join, eager to finally build something on their own terms. The clans became the partnership's traders, their caravan fleets carrying goods across distances that had once seemed impossible. Even the tiny Federation, smaller than a single human city, had a seat at the table. General Heather Price retired to a quiet colony world in the outer reach. She had spent her life preparing for a war that never came, and now she could finally rest. She spent her days gardening, of all things, growing Earth vegetables in alien soil. Ambassador Laura Mitchell returned to Earth, where President Cole awarded her the Medal of Unity, the highest honor any human could receive. She gave a short speech thanking the people who had believed in her, then disappeared from public life. Some said she was writing a book. Others said she was simply tired. Young Morgan took her place as Earth's representative to what remained of the Galactic Council. Her first act was to extend an open invitation for any council species to join the Horizon Network. Several accepted. The old order was crumbling, one member at a time. Dr. Torres continued his research, always looking for the next breakthrough, the next secret that would keep humanity one step ahead. He never forgot how close they had come to disaster. He never stopped preparing for the next challenge. And Admiral Drake, the man who had received the first ultimatum all those months ago, found himself commanding a very different fleet. His ships now carried diplomats and scientists instead of soldiers. They explored new worlds and made new friends instead of preparing for battle. One night, floating in deep space far from Earth, gathered his crew for a small celebration. They had just completed the installation of a new relay station, extending the Horizon Network even further into the unknown. He raised a glass of wine, Earth-grown grapes processed in the traditional way. "They thought we would break," he said to his crew. "They looked at us and saw a young species, small and vulnerable, easy to control. They thought they could scare us into submission with threats and ultimatums." He smiled, looking out at the stars. "They forgot who we are. They forgot that we crawled out of the mud and reached for the sky. They forgot that we survived everything we did to ourselves and came out stronger. They forgot that we don't know how to give up, even when we probably should." He raised his glass higher. "To humanity, we don't break, we don't bow, we don't kneel." His crew raised their glasses in response. "We build." And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, new stars were waiting to be discovered. New friends were waiting to be made. New challenges were waiting to be overcome. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe. And the galaxy would never be the same.